purpose of this webinar is again to present you what the European research infrastructures can do for your research. And this is organized in the framework of the European Partnership Brain Health. And here, Dominique, in a minute, will explain you in more detail the context of this partnership and the call. But basically, as you know, the European Commission has decided, with the help of a lot of countries in Europe, to support the notion of brain health, which is absolutely essential. So it's not, centered on brain disease. It's really brain health, which is the topic of the collective effort, which is launched in this partnership. And in this collective effort, which is a research effort, but not only, it was foreseen that research infrastructures are critical for researchers to help them to foster their research, to help them using, the most advanced technologies, methodologies, knowledge. And it is, I would say, not an understatement to say that research infrastructures are not yet used at the level they should be. So it was also one of the goal of this webinar. And so some of you maybe have attended the first webinar that we organized a few months ago to present to the wider community these infrastructures. And I think it was very useful and successful for what we have seen. This time, this second webinar occurs at the second stage of the calls that were launched by the European Partnership. So the assumption we can make is that the people attending this meeting are the ones which have been successful for this first round of, of application. So congratulations to you. And now it will become more concrete, meaning that what will be presented today by our colleagues from the different infrastructures could be and will be useful for you to build your project. And so the goal is really to discuss with you how we can do the best out of it. So, and then I will, of course, give the stage to all my distinguished colleagues. First, a few practical points. The goal is, of course, that you ask questions. And to do that, we are asking you to do it in the chat because given the numbers you are, it's very difficult, of course, to handle something directly online. So please, it's better for you to ask the question in the chat. And something else, if you feel that the question which is asked is useful also for you, you can support this question by clicking on the thumb, and given the number of thumb that this question get, we'll be able to classify these questions according to the importance you put to them, and we will start by answering these ones. So I don't want to delay much more the presentation. So I think I set up the stage and give most of the practical information. So now Dominique Samaro from the French National Research Agency will give you the more detail about the call and the context of this webinar today. Dominique, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Philippe. Yes, my name is Dominic. I hope you can all see my slides.
Yes, we see it very well.
Okay, perfect. So I work for the French National Research Agency, which is responsible for the Joint Call Secretariat for this year for the Brain Health Partnership, which is a European partnership. And so this year in January, we launched 2 calls under the umbrella topic of biological, social, and environmental factors that impact the trajectory of brain health across the lifespan. And so because the Brain Health Partnership began this year and is in many ways a continuation of 2 former European communities, Neuron and JPND. The two calls were oriented towards these two communities. So the first call towards the fields of neurological, mental, and sensory disorders, for which I'm primarily responsible, and then call two, which is for in the field of neurodegenerative disorders, which my colleague Anthony Petit is mostly responsible for. And the best way to reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns regarding the calls is this email address, brainhealthcalls@anr.fr. And so for these calls, we have approximately 38 funding agencies from 30 countries participating, with a financial budget engagement contribution of about 63.5 million euros across the two calls. And so the aim and the scope of these calls was to really create interdisciplinary projects. And so projects need to address at least two of three factors impacting brain health trajectories. So those can be biological, lifestyle and social, or environmental factors. And applicants need to investigate at least two different aspects of these factors, such as mechanisms, diagnosis, prognosis, or prevention, treatment, interventions, and technological development linked to these identified factors. And so since my understanding is that most of the people in this webinar have been accepted from the full proposal stage, which was done last Friday, I'll just quickly go over what is allowed in terms of modifications, since the goal of this webinar is to introduce different research infrastructures that can be incorporated into these projects. And so, generally speaking, there's a maximum of one research partner that can be added or replaced within a consortium. And so this can be due to a number of different reasons. Perhaps one of the partners is from before is ineligible, had to withdraw, or perhaps this change is justified based on the expert pre-proposal evaluations that were sent out. There's also a widening option, which I'll get into in the next slide as well. And so external collaborators, so partners who are on own funds and not being funded through the partnership, can also be included or excluded during the full proposal stage. And these adjustments should all be linked to either consortium changes or evaluation feedback. And any of these changes, if they involve a funding organization, needs to have approval. So you need to, as applicants, partners, or coordinator, need to be in touch with that funding organization if you are adding a new partner that is requesting funds, because there are different rules that will change from country to country. And on a scientific basis, these changes will need to be indicated within the full proposal submission, within the dedicated section. I believe it's section 2F, if I'm not mistaken. It's all in the template. And if it's another type of justification, just contact us to know if this is okay, and if we need to look for higher approval. And to go into the widening option, so the widening option is adding a partner, not necessarily because it's a requirement, because of ineligibility, but to strengthen the consortia through additional expertise, or to allow the participation of an underrepresented funding organization that has agreed to participate in this option. And so the list of countries participating in this widening has been communicated to the coordinators in the last few days. and include the following: so New Zealand, Malta, Poland, Croatia, Slovakia, Turkey, and Moldova. And the key requirements for this widening option are, of course, as before, need to be confirmed by the respective funding agencies. So please reach out to them in advance of the submission, and also the max of 6 or 7 partners. If one of the partners is an underrepresented country, it can go up to 7. This must be respected as well. And of course, scientifically justified within the work plan. And so, as my last slide, just regarding next steps, as a reminder, the deadline for these full proposal submission is June 30th at 2 p.m. And final decisions will be around October, November, and that's when we will then next be in contact with you if everything goes well. So thank you, and I'll hand it back to the rest of the team.
Thank you very much, Dominique, for I think it was necessary and quite comprehensive. And by the way, you have already a question, which is the fact that Jay would like to know if if what is presented today concern the two calls, and I think the answer is yes,
Yes, yeah.
that we presented. And so yes, and also there are questions, of course, concerning the inclusion of external collaborators with that funding. But maybe all these questions for the funding, maybe we can take them a bit later to group them to see if there are others to put them all together, because I'm sure that these financial topics are, of course, of high interest to many of the participants. So, but maybe we can just now.
I yes, and I can try to reply to a few in the comments
Yes, yes, I think so.
if that
And
works.
because I think I don't want to further delay the presentation of our research infrastructures. And one of the goal of this presentation, as I said in the introduction, was also to show you practically what they can do, for your project. So probably my colleagues will show some examples for in the neuroscience field about this. And so, as I said, so now without further delay, Stan Anker from BBMRI, I will give you the floor. And thank you very much, Stan, for being here and presenting your infrastructures. So the floor is yours.
Hi. I just so you
Yes,
should see the slides now in the correct form, right?
yes, yes, it's perfect. It's perfect. You can.
Good. Yeah, then welcome everyone, and I'm happy to be here with such a great audience to present the first research infrastructure, European research infrastructure, BVMRI, on biobanking and biomolecular resources, and I will try to make it as practical as possible, what is how we can support. I know that there has been a presentation already in the first webinar, but very short for those who have not been present there. I'm from the central node of a biobanking network, so to say. You see some numbers here. An advantage of us is I think that we are spread quite in a lot of European countries and even beyond, like you see Qatar, Turkey, Denmark. And so we have like local nodes, which are very well connected there, to the hospitals, biobanks, but also to the scientific community. I will speak a bit more on this later because this might be also possibility where we could help to support your proposal. Also, we have seen just now that, of course, the consortiums are quite fixed, but maybe there is possibilities. Yeah, basically we provide, our main aim is to provide access to samples, data, and also services. So if there is, for example, a need in your project for sample or data processing, being digital data, but also biomolecular samples, then we can also provide these as a service out of our community. We have quite some experts distributed. I think we have seen in the call One of the big challenges is that in both calls you need to have an overlap of data from different areas. I think it's very good, but it's also, I think, challenging because, of course, you need to have this data with a kind of overlap or same identifier, let's say, to answer research questions. We from BBMR ERIC, we can provide data, what you see on the left side, so biobanking data, all kinds of basically, and cohort data, also from longitudinal studies. Then data associated with these data, imaging and also standardized data in OMOP and so on. We have survey data in our network and what I said before, most or a lot of biobanks are connected to research groups and hospitals, and we already supported some of the proposals in this call. In fact, with linking them to research groups, hospitals attached to the data. So there also we can have an impact if there is a need to bring you in contact with the most innovative research groups in Europe over our national nodes. I think we have quite a good connection there. What we don't have, and I guess other research infrastructures which will follow, can provide this data is environmental exposome data, social lifestyle data. I think this is one of the biggest challenge in both of the calls, like that. But I'm positive, and we have already some examples which we supported in these calls. As we have quite a good coverage of biobank data on hospitals all over Europe. If you can match data from different RIs together, there are good examples where you can also bring here data with an overlap, possibly together. The most easy way to start is actually through our directory. You see the link there. There you can browse, so to say, over 500 biobanks based on diagnosis, materials, collection types, whatever you're looking for. Also, of course, country and region, and identify collections. And then the most straightforward way would be either to use the tool, and the tool provides the functionality to connect you or to contact these data holders, or you simply involve the headquarter, meaning me or my colleagues, and we can establish contact to the data holders over the national node in our network, and go that route. So basically, take the route just automized over the tools. You will see the link over directory BBMR ERIC, or you write us to go more over the personnel contact over the national road nodes. Directory, I just explained shortly, is a very high-level tool to browse metadata to get an impression what data we can support you with or can provide access with is metadata. We provide also functionalities to see more concrete samples and donor level data through another tool, what is called Locator. And then we have also a Finder tool, which is more on standardized data. I would suggest you to go over the directory. That's why I put a slide, what you just have seen, to see what kind of data are on metadata level in the network, in our community, and then we can go from there. And like also said before, there's this negotiator which can bring you in direct contact with the biobanks, or you write us and we establish the contact over the national node, because I have seen in some projects we supported already that sometimes there's also the need to services. Like I said earlier, expertise, clinical or domain expertise, and research expertise. So it might more make sense to go over the personal contact. It strongly depends on your need. If you just need really data or service, meaning service in the terms of processing data or material, or if you want more support in your proposal. I try also to find a bit some practical examples for the two calls specifically. The two calls have been introduced already. The one here on mental and sensory disorders. Again, yeah, like I said, big challenge here to include two at least of the three categories: biological, social, environmental. Like I said, also we can only support at the moment, of course, the biological side here. And from the research point of view, yeah, I think you know better because you have all passed the first stage, as I just have heard. So you have already quite some research question behind it, and what you want to investigate regarding the objectives, mechanisms, early recognition, prevention, and yeah, you see here an example how we could cover the biological side. And like I said before, the other kind of data would be mapped or maybe come from other eyes, or if you have already data collected in with the partners in your current consortium, like wearable data and other kinds of data, you can also contact us to find local or to map you to local biobanks research institutes which can cover this biological sample provision. Yeah, down there you see also regarding this first call or research question, just three examples of from our directory of data we could provide. Is yeah, like I said earlier, out of 500, this is just some collection, three of them, which would fit to your research, to the research question I just introduced on the slide before. I would recommend again, go to the directory and see yourself what best fits to your research question. If there's a need, you see here on the last point, of course, we can also help on the LC part, ethics, data agreement, data governance, exchanging data, also ethics on AI, for example, if this might be a thing which is relevant. So we have here also service staff expertise in our headquarter, but also distributed over certain experts in the European countries. So if there's a need to include or make your proposal fit better for this, come to me. It might be that this might maybe have been a comment even from the first review that you need to tackle this stuff more. Feel free to contact. Related to this, maybe partly also, of course, as we are at least attached to the European initiatives to some extent. We are also highly involved on political level with the European health data space and these activities regarding especially also part 2 for secondary use of data. So if there is some need in these general fair points or how to make data also ready for the EHDS, also here we are
Buongiorno, dottore.
quite a good partner. For the second call, sorry, what happened now?
Yes,
for the second call, more on the etiology, on the neurodegenerative disorders. Similar like before, you know that there are several from different Alzheimer diseases, MS, and so on. I think there have been some submissions in this area already. Again, here we can support the clinical side, so to say, of data from omics, MRIs, retinal images, so all kinds of data from the health context, whatever is collected in hospitals through Europe, I would say. Of course, we have also, to some extent, data from prevention studies, and also expertise on AI on prediction of these data in our community. And like I said earlier, the linkage with pollutants, lifestyle, social factors. There are activities ongoing. Please contact me if you are interested in this. There are, of course, already research projects or infrastructure supporting projects we are running with research infrastructures like Share, Eric, or also Irene in Czech Republic with huge expertise in exposome distribution in Europe. So if there is a need for that, yeah, come to me. Again, here, like what I just said, in our biobanks itself, there are no environmental and social lifestyle data yet, but we have, yeah, a lot of cooperation running with, like with Irene and Share Eric, which have these expertises and also these kind of data, which we also try to map and work on infrastructure projects so that in future more easily even proposals can link these data. Good. I would say I transmitted all the things I could say you at this point. Contact us early is maybe not so relevant already as you are on the second stage already. Go over the directory to find data or samples which would help you in the project. And then, of course, you can always contact us for details or for contacts to these institutions and these networks in these different European countries. And yeah, then we are happy to support your project. I think that was my last slide. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Stan. It was extremely comprehensive, very useful, I guess, quite practical for our participants. And I see that there is a lot of activities in the chat, which is good. And Dominique, thank you very much for answering already the relevant questions. So it's very, very active. So I think we will have a Q&A session a bit later. So I will now hand over to Anton from Beatrice, Antonucci, and please, so could you stop sharing, Stan?
Yep, I think it's done.
It's done. Okay, thank you. So it's your turn, Anton. Very happy to have you here. And so please.
Super. Thanks for the invitation to be here. Good morning, everybody. Great that you're here to see what resources are available. So my name is Anton Ussi from IATRIS, which is the S3 infrastructure for translational medicine. So very much about applied medicine, biomedical research. So rigorous discovery research being set up to be sure that it can be validated and developed towards some meaningful interventions later on as needed. So I will continue without any further ado. So we are in 14 countries. The infrastructure is in 14 countries, comprising 175 institutions. Approximately half of those are university medical centers, so very heavily focused on clinical understanding. Plus, the other half are specialized research institutions covering everything from biomarkers to advanced therapy medicinal products. Molecular imaging is a heavy focus for us to utilize that for translational research questions. Small molecules development, both repurposed and novel chemical entities, and vaccine development as well as inflammation and immune monitoring technologies. So we cover very much the translational process to go from a scientific discovery towards a meaningful intervention or understanding of the disease processes. We have a broad range of services, broadly just split into two types, one being the wet lab services. So with those 175 institutes, we have access to pretty much any analytical technology you can imagine, ranging from imaging to single cell and cell painting and all the possible readouts you could imagine. And then on top of that, we have our innovation services, which are the peripheral expertise services you need when conducting translational medicine. So, for instance, we can support you with industrial mentoring to understand the industrial process that will later be necessary for your discoveries, providing regulatory services, understanding the feasibility of your intervention from a regulatory and innovation management perspective, and even things like early health technology assessment if you're developing. And I'm aware this call is much earlier stage discovery mechanistic research, but still useful to be aware of the resources here. And then we also have quite a large variety of self-service resources online as well. So the first use case I'm going to give is the wet lab research services, how you can access that at the moment. So this is an example of the call for 2026 and call 1. So let's say you're putting together a call on multiomics biomarkers to understand depression. The inflammatory response to and its linkage to depression, and you want to clinically identify and clinically validate biomarkers that might have a range of multiomics readouts involved. So you have pretty much the whole consortium there. You have your proteomics and your metabolomics readouts, and your AI integration is covered, and you have your cohorts and your clinical neurological expertise, but you're missing a 7T MRI machine. So you can come to us, and our consortium building service is perfectly suited for that. So we can provide a report of all our institutions that will have a 7T machine that are available to be accessed. So the way you would apply for that service is basically you fill in a very short, easy matchmaking request form, indicating what you're working on right now, what the proposal is for which call, and then you'll indicate to us that you're looking for research services or cohorts and samples. And then you can see down here at the bottom, you can explain the phase you're in, and then you can give in the free text field a little bit more information. The more detailed you are with your request, the easier it is for us to give you a meaningful and useful response. And we will give this response within 2 to 3 working days normally. So it's a fast response. And we do this by hand. We have a detailed database of all of our capabilities across the 170 institutions, and it's moderated by a human. So we're very much making sure that you get the right answers and the right kinds of institutions for your specific research question. For the next example, that's for the example of our expertise services, so the innovation services. Those are generally run by our expert centers in those 170 institutes, but sometimes also run by the ERIC itself. However, I think it's important to be aware that the ERICs are not eligible, if I'm not mistaken, in this call, because we are not seen as research performing organizations as the ERICs. So IATRIS itself would not be a partner in your proposals, but our institutions would, coming in under their institutional entity title. So let's say you're doing an early detection for Alzheimer's disease to do some stratification to try and understand the disease etiology a little bit more, utilizing CSF and imaging and digital biomarkers, and you want to translate that into an actual clinical tool. So you already have a strong hypothesis, and you really want to now validate and develop that further towards clinical understanding and implementation. So you have the whole wet lab, you have the whole clinical and non-clinical expertise and the readouts that you need, but you don't have access to regulatory support to understand what's the IVDR process, the in vitro diagnostic regulation or the medical device regulation that you would have to fulfill later with your data sets. So it's very important to be aware what's going to be asked of your data later on, so that you don't have to repeat studies in the future if you really want to actually get that data set into utilization in the clinic. So you can come to us and we would provide the regulatory support that you need by either through one of our in-house consultants, regulatory experts, or one of our expert centers, where we cover all of the cogent and current legislative and regulatory areas. So here it would be the same form again, but then you would just indicate that it's innovation management or regulatory affairs. It can also be a few things. You don't have to limit yourself to one service. It can be whatever you might need. And again, as much detail as you can will help us get a suitable answer for you. And then finally, we have the online resources. So some of them will be useful for this call, I think. So firstly is the multi-omics toolbox that was developed basically as a knowledge hub where clinicians and researchers can use the resources there for their multi-omics research, and it's built by the community, and it's been quite a joint activity with about 15 of our nodes over the last few years, and so it really was built for the research community and is available to you free to use. So that is not something that you would have to include necessarily specifically into the proposal or have any cost associated. There's also some excellent guidelines that we built through previous projects. So one is the biomarker commercialization tool, and the other is the clinical AI toolbox, also for developing clinical AI towards implementation. So those two, KDEX and the biomarker, the BIC tool, are very useful if you're already doing applied development of biomarkers. And then on the EDERA website, so EDERA is rare disease focused, but that's there's a lot of resources in the innovation management toolbox on the EDERA website that are generally applicable across all domains. So it's not rare disease specific. And that's really everything covering self-help tools, guidelines, things like target product profile templates, project management templates, anything you can imagine around managing a development project. There's more than 500 resources there, and it's accessible in a searchable querying manner. I think that's it. The contact details are there. We invite you to make contact if you have any questions, of course, and we wish you the best of luck with your full proposal, and we hope that you get the funding. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Anton. I think it was extremely well done, useful. I think you answered many questions that also I have seen in the chat, by the way. So it will probably ease the Q&A, even if, of course, there are still a few things to specify. But without further delay, I would like now to hand over to Jan Bialy, my colleague from eBrains, to present our infrastructures. So please, Jan, go ahead. You're not in full screen yet, but we see your screen.
We're getting there?
Yes. It's maybe not the first slide, but...
No, it's not. We have to fix that. There we go. Soon. That's it. Okay, thank you very much. So I will talk about eBrain's research infrastructure and provide you a specific use case on how to realize collaborative sharing of brain data and adapt to EU open science policies, also for sensitive data. And I'd like to point out that eBrain's research infrastructure is specifically a research infrastructure for brain research, for neuroscience. Some of what we do could, of course, apply well in other areas, but we are for brain. And the logical architecture is shown on this slide with the data tools and services, user-facing at the top, an operations service layer, then the base infrastructures that are connected to our infrastructure, and a set of sensitive data infrastructures that are not directly inside our infrastructure, but that we link to, and we are recruiting more of those. So in the webinar in March, we gave an overview of our different service categories as shown on this slide. I'm not going to give that overview today. You can easily on our ebrains.eu webpage look at the mega menu, for example, by going to data tools and services, hover over, and you'll see this mega menu with everything there in one view. And then, of course, go into these and look at the different services and tools that you might want to use or build into your proposal. What I will now do is to specifically think about this particular brain health challenge. So, of course, we know the general background on the growing burden of these type of diseases. We know the high failure rate and long timelines in developing new diagnostics and therapies. And we know that funding applications increasingly demand robust use of existing data and evidence, reproducible and replicable research, transparent data management, integration across cohorts, modalities, countries. Now, how can you strengthen your proposal in this direction and be more interesting to the funders and actually to the community? Well, the collaborative data sharing in open science has these two dimensions that we will focus on now in this use case. On speeding up progress in science through collaborative sharing of research data, and the open science policy for EU, which is clearly expressed in both of these calls that we are focusing on today. Now, the speeding of progress through collaborative sharing has, of course, to do with breaking silos between different types of data, being able to go across different resources, to enable reanalysis, meta-analysis, instead of starting over again in many instances, and accelerating hypothesis generation, validation, and translation. The open science in general is about applying the principles for findability of data, accessibility, interpretability, interoperability, and reuse. We are all aware of all the requirements related to this. So open science doesn't exist in isolation. It has close connection to how do you deal with GDPR, with ethics, with data sovereignty. And our solution to that, generally speaking, is the use of trusted research environments and secure data access. So we connect to such resources, and I'll explain to you how we deal with this. So the core eBrains service in this domain is to help manage, curate, and publish digital research products. We are talking about research data coming out of various devices where data are required, but we're also talking about models derived from these data or generated in a more top-down way. And we talk about all the software and workflows to analyze the data and linking these elements, these digital research products. And about making the data fair and machine actionable via linked data, that is through what we call the knowledge graph, the eBrains knowledge graph. So this is about connecting open and sensitive data resources, public data sets, such as from animal research data or anonymous data from human subjects that can be shared openly. They are just available directly, and they're hosted by our research infrastructure. Now, there are a lot of data that cannot be hosted directly in an open way, but we can make anonymous metadata discoverable and then point to data in trusted research environments or secure environments. That's what we do. And we also support interoperable integration with other tools, connecting the data to, for example, the tools for analysis. We provide UIs and licensing in terms of use for the data, and we emphasize through all parts of this service credit to the data contributors. So what can you do then with eBrains data knowledge services? Let's take first the data provider's perspective. The data provider, your consortium, for example, can submit and curate human brain datasets with support from eBrains curators. That means you don't have to invent all of these steps in this. It's available for you. You can then publish high-quality standardized metadata describing what you have, cohort data, imaging data, clinical data, all the features, animal research data, and so on. You can link your service where you have your data, a trusted research environment in your country or a secure storage at your institution, or you can ask us for suggestions about what should I do if I want to create a collaborative environment for this. We might have suggestions in our network. And that can give you the discoverability and pointing to places where the data would be available. If you take a user perspective, then it's about discovering data sets. You can do that through the eBrains knowledge graph search. So the user can find these data sets and select the ones of interest. Then understand the access conditions. This will be displayed very clearly, or this is displayed very clearly. They can be open, it can be controlled or restricted, and then pointing to trusted research environments, and of course, governance requirements. And this will allow then reuse of existing data if access to the data is given, then to combine data, perform meta-analysis and multi-site studies. So more specifically, use case, how to realize collaborative data sharing and adapt to EU open science policies also for sensitive data. So this means you need a consortium plan, a project. Let's say we have a project dealing with early detection of brain disease in this use case. Then you want to combine several data sets and data modalities. And what you need to show in the proposal, you need to show how you will identify and reuse existing data, how you will share resulting data responsibly, what can be shared openly, what can be shared through a secure environment, and how you then will align with EU open science and fair data principles. This can be sold through the eBrains research infrastructure solutions. So the step-by-step is for the discovery part. The eBrains data knowledge service takes care of that, allows your data to be discovered. And then someone can identify relevant data, including those stored in TREs. It deals with the access part, meaning that you can, as a user, come in and review the available information, understand what these data are and the access conditions, and then contact the data provider, trusted research environment via mechanisms we have set up, which makes this quite easy. And then design an integrated data plan, decide which existing data set can you make use of, and how can you complement these, and plan for harmonized metadata formats and analysis. So this is the reuse aspect. Now, the other aspect is contribute. How do you contribute? You will presumably acquire data, and you can then make a plan for how you will contribute, and thereby strengthening your proposal because this becomes much more concrete. That involves a curation plan, committing to curating new data through the eBrain's data knowledge services, describing how anonymized metadata for human data will be prepared for publication while they remain in a secure location. It means dealing with the fair and open science integration. You can specify then how eBrains will ensure fair metadata and the linked data representation, and highlight the interoperability with tools and other infrastructures. This is a particularly strong part because it's not only about finding particular data, but also seeing how they relate to specific software tools and workflows. In other words, a broader ecosystem. And then, of course, the governance and compliance is dealt with this way. Through our data knowledge services, everything is prepared for explaining how the theory in secure environments will be used, and it helps to clarify institutional responsibilities, and the ethical approvals and so on will have to be in place, and they have to be checked on our side before anything goes through the system. So this is a professional grade data sharing service. So an overview of the service. This first part emphasizes non-sensitive data and metadata. Could be animal research data. It could be aggregated human data. The request for the curation and sharing on the left side go through submission stage. Inside the eBrain's research infrastructure, you go through certain steps which leads to the publication of the metadata or the data if they're open that can be discovered and reused. A data provider will come in on the left side, obviously, and will find on our webpage the curation request form and fill in that form quite easily. It goes into our system. It's almost like, let's say, an inquiry to a journal about the possible interest in publication of a paper. Very comparable. You provide the relevant information, and if accepted, then it can go through these different stages. If you are a data user, which you might also be, of course, at the same time, you will be on the right side. You will search using the eBrain's knowledge graph search, discover data sets, and be informed about how you can access them if they're not directly accessible, which could be the case, but for sensitive human data, they will not be. But you can then apply for the access. So here we have an emphasis on the sensitive data part that gives additional steps. We have sensitive data infrastructures or trusted research environments or secure storages that has to be onboarded, which we have several of them already onboarded, and where you, on the data user side to the right, can then request through the eBrain's knowledge graph service access to the data. And then the data holder, if you are the data holder, you decide who can have that access. It will depend on your permissions. It will depend on everything around your project, whether you can allow that or not, and set up either a sharing or a collaborative project. So let's take an example of a data set which is shared through this mechanism. It will have a data card. That data card contains a lot of information. It's almost like a publication in itself with DOI, which, by the way, researchers, of course, add to their publication list or to their list of contributions to the community. And it has many different parts, which I'm not going to describe in detail now, but it shows clearly who the contributors are, who the authors are. It shows many, many features of the dataset. In other words, it allows the user, the data user, to make a judgment of whether this is of interest or not. If the data are openly available, they can take them and they will see what the terms are. If they're not available, there will be a clear instruction on how you can request the access and go to a form, fill in, will go directly to the data holder, and from there will be possibly an agreement on access. Briefly, methodology in your proposal will have to deal with data sources and reuse. For example, you will say that you will systematically identify and reuse relevant human brain datasets through our service or other services. You may specifically identify data management curation and say that, for example, your newly collected data will be curated and documented using eBrain standards. You may point open science and sharing, that you will publish anonymized metadata and access conditions via eBrains, enabling discoverability and responsible reuse. You may add specifics, or you will add, you have to add on ethics and governance, obviously, and then possibly linked to the eBrains service. And in this way, you demonstrate your project is well organized, scalable, and aligned with European open science policies, even if it contains sensitive data. So how to access this? Dataset discovery is publicly available. Steps beyond data sets, you need an eBrains account, and that's just go on the website, apply for an account. We have 17,000 of those. They are individually identified people, but you get that if you have an institutional account, email account. Then you contribute data and prepare for collaborative science, submit the curation request for your project when you have a project funding, but as early as possible, because that allows you to have more proactive attitude to this rather than rescue operations. And before acceptance of the sharing, documentation and compliance checks will have to be made. And after acceptance, the curation happens, the metadata are published, and when applicable, there is a link to the data in the secure environments or trusted research environments. So that's the key points. Create an eBrains account. Contact us either on communication@ebrains.eu. If there's anything while you are now preparing proposals in June, you're welcome to send that email as soon as possible if you have questions. You can also use the contact form if you like. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much. It was also very comprehensive and I think and very clear from my side, but maybe I'm a bit biased. All these presentations are raising a lot of questions again, so the chat is still very active. Things seems to be crystallized a little bit, but that's good. By the way, Alexandros or Evan, do you know if Jacques Demotte has been able to join us already or not?
The plan is him to join us at 11:15.
Okay. So yeah, so he's not there yet. So in that case, I will ask Andrew Smith from Elixir maybe to hand over, and then we will continue and probably wrap up the question at the end because I think that things are still ongoing. There are many question and answer in the chat, so we can continue, I think, with the infrastructure presentation. And please, Andrew, feel free to open your presentation and set the stage.
Thank you. Okay, so I should be sharing my screen now, and hopefully everyone can see the slides. And also just to echo my colleagues as well by starting by thanking you for the invitation to present to you. So the first thing to note is that Elixir is a data infrastructure, but what you need to really bear in mind with Elixir is that the data that you might need to generate from technologies and facilities will be provided by the sister research infrastructures that you've heard about so far and will continue to hear about as well. So Elixir is focused on management of data and digital assets, but this is more about when the data are generated. So we don't provide facilities to generate the data for you, but we have solutions to help you analyze the data, exploit the data, store the data. So that's what we should bear in mind. And of course, the other thing to note is that Elixir isn't a specific neuroscience focused infrastructure. eBrains is, but there could still be some solutions and services and activities that you could reference in your proposal or benefit from. So that's the first thing to note. So we have a large critical mass of partners across the Elixir network, and they collectively provide over 700 services. And they include databases, training on bioinformatics, software tools. They also include resources to make data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And we also provide computing facilities as well as helping with data management support. Now, all of these services are available for free and you can use them, including without needing to work with Elixir as a beneficiary in the project. But for some of them, for example, some of the TREs and computing facilities, there is a charge. And depending on how much support you would need, it may be better to try to bring one of our national partners in as a beneficiary. And I'll go through that at the end as well. But this gives you an idea about the size of the network and the types of services that we offer. So to give you a flavor of what we provide, these are databases, tools, resources that already exist. So there's 700 of them. And the Elixir website allows you to identify the ones that you're likely to be most interested in. And so they already store a lot of publicly available data from literature through to genomics. And you might want to build workflows in your experiments around this. And you can also search by technology type as well. So it's not just the data. We also have a lot of services that relate to other digital assets as well, like workflows and tools to analyze data. But that gives you an idea at the high level of the types of services that we provide. Now, what you might want to bear in mind when you're preparing your proposal is thinking about whether you've got open science obligations that you want to fulfill and how you can best do that. And it could be that some of the Elixir solutions will help you. So because we've got so many services, we make recommendations about which resources might be most helpful. And so we've got a set of core data resources, and these are really critical to the functioning of the life sciences. So resources like the European Nucleotide Archive or UniProt. So some of these really key databases that really underpin a lot of knowledge generation in the life sciences. And these databases are there. They already have high quality data sets in, which you might need to build a workflow around to analyze and integrate. And then we also have a set of deposition databases as well. And here you can store experimental data in them for free. So if you're fulfilling an open science mandate, you can put your data, say if it's sensitive human data, you can put that into the European Genome Phenome Archive, and that allows others to be able to benefit from that. And it allows you to fulfill your open science mandate. And then also in general, if you want to make the tools and services that you're developing within your project, if you want to make them fair and interoperable and findable, then we've got some guidance and some tools that you can use to do that as well. And so we have some recommended interoperability resources, and you can use those. You can describe in your open science section how you'll be trying to utilize some of those guidance from Elixir to help make your data fair. So that's one thing to bear in mind. This gives you an example of some of the different data types for which we have deposition databases. So if you're generating experimental data rather than creating your own, which needs to be sustained, you can put that data into the public domain where there are large teams of people that can help to manage it and ensure that the community can get the most benefit from it. And it just gives you some examples of them as well. When it comes to data management, we've got a lot of support and also registries and services that you can use as well. So for partners who are either data management experts, so they're acting as a data steward, or maybe they don't have a background in data management, but they need to know what to do during the course of the project. Then we've got some resources which again you can use free of charge and reference. So for example, our RDM kit. That has a list of services and resources that you can use to help develop your data management plan in the project as well. It guides you through the whole life cycle of it. And indeed, if you want to get help on writing your data management plan, you can use the Elixir Data Management Wizard. DSW it's called, and that's an online tool that you can put in some information and data, and it helps to give you a guidance template that can act as the data management plan. So that gives you an example of some of them. And if we look beyond data to some of the other digital assets that you might be generating or that you might need to develop in the project, that could be software tools and containers or workflows. So we've got registries where if you're developing a resource, you can help other communities find that resource by annotating it into one of these registries. And that or if you yourselves are looking to find out which existing solutions could be tailored and brought into your proposal, you can also start by analyzing some of these registries that we have for workflows, containers, tools. It's a good place to try and understand what's already in the public domain in which you can bring into your project or repurpose as well. And of course, we also provide guidance as well, including on AI models and how to make software sustainable. So these are all things that you can do in your proposal to describe how you're helping to address the open science mandate that you will have. And then equally, if you're developing training and it relates to data management or it relates to statistics, for example, you can also make sure to help the sustainability of that training. If it's an online course, for example, you can put that into the Elixir training registry. And again, that's helping the wider community be able to find that training course. So a lot of the services that we provide, even if they're not focused on neuroscience, they're helping you to show how you're enabling a wider community to benefit from the assets that you're developing within the project. Because by annotating them in a registry, other researchers that might not otherwise have found them will be able to access them. And then just to give an example of a use case and of one of the services and how this is integrated into some of the projects at the moment, if you're generating sensitive human genomic data, now obviously this needs to be managed very, very carefully for ethical and legal reasons. It can't be transferred out the jurisdiction in which it was generated, but we want to have a system where scientists can still, with the right controls and permissions, can still access it across boundaries. So the data will stay where they are, but the access for analysis will be enabled transnationally. And here there's a network of databases called the Federated European Genome Phenome Archive, where many countries in the Elixir network and even beyond are creating a local instance of the EGA. And there you can put data into it, and that helps to fulfill not only the open science mandate, but it also ensures that they are staying in the country in which they are generated. And this technology that's being developed, the federated EGA, is the backbone of quite a lot of large European projects like the genomics data infrastructure as well. So you can see in practice how this can be done. And then finally, just to finish by giving you something to think about really. Now, a lot of these services, all of these services already exist. And so I guess the proposition is for you to think about whether you need to use an Elixir partner as a beneficiary in the project, which may be, or maybe what you want to do is just reference some of those existing resources, the guidance documents that we have when you're preparing the open science section of the proposal. And that's also possible as well. So it's not my expectation that there will be a lot of Elixir nodes that would be beneficiaries in proposals that you're working on, but the services that we offer could be referenced in the project. And so to give an example, there's a lot of European level funding agencies, including partnerships that will encourage the use of Elixir resources in the open science policies and plans. And so as a result of that, you might want to reference some of those open data resources that we run as a way of fulfilling those obligations. But if you do need some development work done, if you're wanting to build a registry linked to a registry that we have, or you know there needs to be a lot of support provided, then it may be necessary to bring an Elixir partner in to help build that solution solution with you. If that was the case, you could reach out via this email address. We need to know a little bit of the basic details so that we can then contact the experts in the Elixir network and bring them in. And then they would need to understand a bit more about what the project needs were. And then a conversation could continue on whether it would be appropriate to have them as a beneficiary or not. But as I say, a lot of what we provide is available for free, and you can already reference it and showing how you're joined up, how the assets from your project will be put back in the public domain, including through Elixir resources if you have them. So I think that's probably a good point to finish on. And I'm of course happy to look at the questions in the chat and give some replies to them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It was also extremely clear. And also, I think you have answered several of the questions that were asked in the chat already. For example, how the infrastructure can be included into the project, what practically can be done. I think you answered many things. But maybe we will wrap up the questions at the end. So I will now give the floor to Linda Shaban from Eurobioimaging for a complementary presentation of what this
Yes,
beautiful infrastructure.
hi everyone. I'm really pleased to
Linda,
be here. I'm trying to find now the presentation. Here we are. So, where is it now? Okay, I have it. So many windows. So I'm Linda Shaban from the Eurobioimaging, which is the research infrastructure for imaging technologies for biological or biomedical research. And this is a network, a large network of more than 300 imaging facilities across different European countries that you see in green here that provide access to their facilities, but not only for the technology, but also supporting you with the development of the imaging study that you want to develop. So these technologies that allow you to go across all the scales and to tackle from the molecular side to the human imaging states. So this is a very large number of technologies that requires also expertise where scientists can support you not only for performing the imaging experiment, but also for the extraction of all the information that you can extract from the image. So through the specific expertise of analysis. And this is really open to everyone, and you don't need to know anything about imaging. The scientists can help you with this. And you can also have opportunities to get more training in this different landscape of imaging technologies. So through our web page, you can have a quick overview of the different technologies available across the different countries. You can see more details also about the training opportunities that are offered by the nodes, by the different partners, but also from imaging industries. We are providing also specific services for image data analysis, but also supporting you also how to manage image data, how to make it fair, and we provide some tools or also connection with different communities. And yeah, you have seen already some interesting tools provided by our colleagues here from the research infrastructure, with which we are also working quite closely on this item. So from our webpage, you can have all the information, but the easiest, of course, is to just send us an email and you can have more details and we can support you. Beyond to the current area of the current call of relate to the BrainHealth partnership, we can also publish some funding opportunities that you can later on have a look and maybe can be of interest for you. So imaging is very well used in the neuroscience research, and you know already in medical use we have so many techniques that are here let's say indicated, like magnetic resonance imaging, PET imaging, but also magnetoencephalography, many techniques that are really daily used, but also really highly specialized imaging facilities developed specific techniques and specific methodologies or tools that are helping you to go through the different areas of research in the brain. As you can see here, I just try to make a list of the different areas of where imaging can be used in the human imaging. And here, what I want to underline is there are so many tools, so many possibilities that it was hard for me to select a specific use case, but I would like to just present some of them and then explain how you can exploit this. So here I picked up one example that is coming from the Czech bioimaging infrastructure. I know that Czechia is not eligible country, but I thought it was a good example anyway to demonstrate how they are developing human imaging for neuroscience research. Here they have a 3D Tesla magnetic MRI system that is recently upgraded that allow you to fully go through the whole brain structure, but also brain metabolism and brain function. That is really classical, let's say, use of magnetic resonance imaging. But what is more important here, they have the possibility to make combined MRI with EEG analysis, and in particular, they have implemented this neurofeedback process, which is allow you to have this real-time interaction with the subject, who can see directly in real time the brain activity, the area of brain activity, or what is the response of the action that he did, so he can automatically readjust or modulate his own activity. So this can be used in different areas of interest of this call. Of course, mental health states is one of biggest area of application, but also motor rehabilitation, or looking at the pain processing and how the different sensory areas can be controlled directly during the experiments. So this is an example from the Czech bioimaging, but we have different nodes that can offer this kind of technology for your use. Another aspect that I want to show is also across our network, we have unique also possibilities that are not really common and very available everywhere, like this dual 3D MRI, which allows you to simultaneously acquire in two subjects that can in real time interact, so they can exchange, so that you can see how the brain function react on the different conditions. And this will help you to explore more the social exchange impact on the brain. So this is one example that is quite unique, and maybe you can think about it for a next opportunity of funding, because I know that is require some work to planify and to set up those things. What I want to show you here is another user story, which means any scientist coming from anywhere that comes and visit a facility, like here, the Dutch high-field MRI, where they have the 7 Tesla MRI scanner, and they welcome scientists from the University of Coimbra to use the high-field MRI to study specifically the limb pain and see how the somatotopic organization of the primary somatosensory cortex react within a certain condition. So here it is a visit, it is an experience where the scientists also interact with the host and develop the study together. And this really concrete, let's say, research development that scientists also learn from this technology and also collect a number of data that is really relevant for his project. What is interesting across the whole network is that many technologies that you can use in human, you can use it in animal models, in a live system. So you can have this multi-parametric brain MRI that can be applied in specific animal models. You can tackle also the molecular aspect using B-model technologies that combine the MRI and PET in a simultaneous way to collect all the information you need. And you can also have specific radio tracers or radio ligands developed for your purpose. So this is the possibility for in vivo imaging, and we can go into the more microscopic level where you can apply the free photon imaging, optical imaging system in the living animals to tackle more with the fluorescence target about the functional imaging in these animals that are awake, or you can go to more highly resolution to look at the cellular level, the interaction of cells, or going into active targets across the different areas of your brain, but across a different type of cells. So the super resolution fluorescence microscopy is one of the unique possibilities that neuroimaging have in this catalog of services. Here again, I want to show that the specific access to these technologies to tackle focal excitotoxic injuries. And here, this is a special technique offered by the French bioimaging network that hosted a scientist coming from Canada to use this technology and to exploit all the possibilities through this super resolution microscopy on brain slices. So this is another example how we have this interactive collaboration with different scientists coming from everywhere. As I said, we are providing specific services for image data management to exploit not only all the information provided by the image dataset that can be acquired in everywhere, from everywhere, and we are happy to support you with the analysis across our nodes. We have different experts that provide those services, but we are also connecting you with specific communities that can help you to exchange with your image data, how to best make it reusable also through the FAIR data services and technical tools to allow you to manage big data sets or to share those data across the network. So these are the things that we can support. So my difficulty to find the use cases is really that we are offering access to many technologies that are really super specific for different areas of applications, and you can go really through the different level of resolutions. And this is really open to everyone, and you can find also these training opportunities for you to learn better those technologies, to be ready also for the future to reuse it. So how to get, so as I said, this is a really open to anyone. So it's a big network of users that is growing across the globe that have this kind of experience and visits. How to access? I think the simplest way is really to send us an email and specifying what is your problem that you want to tackle or what kind of support you are looking for. So we can give you the advice on the right imaging technologies and or services that can be of help, or we can directly identify and connect you with the right imaging expert in the network that can be eligible for your proposal so that you can quickly develop the specific technical work and define the budget that you need for that. We are happy to connect you. So as the deadline is very approaching and we have seen that it's very quick really here, the June 30th, please just send us this email and we will rapidly answer to your needs as better as we can, of course. And that is all from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Linda. It was also very, very precise and clear and very good overview of what imaging can do for the brain. Obviously, imaging techniques are key to most of the investigation done in the brain, both in vivo in human and also in experimental situations. And also, I think it provides a very good example of how the different infrastructures which have been presented to you today can be connected to each other, because you have seen that the facilities is, for example, for imaging, is mostly Eurobioimaging, but for the brain data, it will be probably mostly eBrains. If you want to connect to other kind of data, it will be probably Elixir. If you want to put them into a better preclinical context, you will join Eatrice and so on and so forth. I think we see progressively the very connection between the infrastructures appearing from your presentation. So thank you very much. And it also answers many questions that were in the chat already. Alexandros and Evan, do you know if Jacques Demotte has been able to
Not
join us
yet,
yet?
Philippe.
Not yet. So
Not-
since also, and we accept the apologies of our colleagues from Infra Frontiers. So, Infra Frontiers is the European infrastructures for basically animal modeling of human diseases. So it's also a very large infrastructure, very critical. Many of you probably knows the mouse clinic you can find, for example, in Munich, in Germany, or in Strasbourg, in France. And they are dealing with, these very large mouse mutants facilities and also providing many different kinds of animal models to you. So it's a bit unfortunate they can be here today, but at the same time, it's probably one of the best known infrastructures and very, very well used. So we will try to also to connect them to you, of course. And I think the procedure will be about the same that Linda, Andrew, and all of you have, or Anton, all of you have shown, meaning that you have an entry point, which is also some of the main assets of the infrastructures. You have a single entry point, which allows you to contact and to ask any questions you may have. So maybe we are also approaching, I think, to the end of the of the session. So maybe we can start answering some of the most burning questions. And I've not been able to really, uh, uh, to go through all of them in detail because it was difficult to follow both the presentation and the chat. But basically, if I try to summarize, and you will help me in doing this, there was really two kinds of question. Question were specifically dedicated to the call, the project themselves, and I think for them, Dominique, you have answered already in the chat to most of them. And I don't know if there is still a burning question around this. I have seen that there was many questions about how many partners, how do you get them in, what will be the reviewing process, what will be the several deadlines. And I don't know if there is still a question which needs to be answered orally by Dominique or us about this. Dominique, have you seen something that needs to be maybe underlined or specified?
Hello. Can you still hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. I think maybe my camera is not working anymore, but that's okay.
No, it works.
Yes,
You.
you do see me? Okay, I don't see
See
myself.
you and we hear you very well.
I answered, I think, as many questions as I could, unless there were a few that came in at the last minute. Of course, there were some questions we can't answer regarding rankings and all of that. That's not something that I can answer today. I guess the main thing to underline is that there's a difference between partners and subcontractors. This is something we spoke about during the first webinar as well. So partners, there's a very strict definition. They have to include their CV. They need to be included in all the tables. And then they have certain legal obligations, regardless of whether they are on own funds or if they're external partners or partners within this consortium requesting funding. So that's what's required of partners. And then there are subcontractors. So that's just part of the work plan and then would be part of the budget of one of the partners. And so if we are looking at research infrastructures and how they can be implemented into a project based on feedback that has been received from the reviewers, these are like two different ways that can be envisioned. And
Thank you very much, Dominique.
that's the main point, I guess. I'll look and see in the chat if there are any other.
I think it answers. I see the last question of Gabriele, for example. So I think, Gabriele, it's clear now that partners needs to be included into the project, whether they are funded or not funded. That's very clear.
Yes, exactly.
And
Exactly.
then for the subcontractors, it's through one partner. So I think this point is pretty clear. Maybe from the now the second set of questions where
Philippe,
was dealing with the infrastructures themselves.
Philippe,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Well, just to let you know that Jacques has joined us. So
Okay.
whatever you want.
Okay. Let's do like this, since we have I think answered the first set of questions concerning the project themselves. We can probably now let Jacques make the presentation, and then we will tackle the second set of questions regarding the infrastructures themselves, which should be also fairly simple because most of them have been answered either by our presenters, and thank you very much for this, or also in the chat. But Jacques, thank you for being able to join us in such a rush, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
for
Thank
being
you very
here.
much, Philippe. I'm really sorry, but I'm in a sort of tunnel of presentation this morning, and I was not able to find anyone to do that. So I will share a set of slides. So I'm the head of ECRIN. ECRIN is an infrastructure whose mission is to support multinational clinical trials. The eBrain, the Brain Health Partnership is about supporting neuroscience research. But this doesn't include, to what I understand, the clinical trials. But I think it's so it's interesting anyway to make this presentation of ECRIN, and I will take an example, which is the example of a study called FAIRPARK that
Yes,
FAIRPARK is yeah.
We start seeing your screen now. Yes, it's not in
Okay.
full presentation mode yet.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, now it should be. So
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I will show the use case, the ECRIN services we provided to a multinational clinical trials on neurodegenerative disorder, more specifically on Parkinson's disease, which is called FAIRPARK. So what is FAIRPARK about and what is ECRIN mission? First, I will remind you what is the mission of ECRIN. So our mission is to make Europe a single area for clinical trials in spite of the barrier linked to the difference in the clinical research ecosystem in the different countries. So we have now 13 member countries on board for a total of 360 million citizens. We are working to increase the geographical footprint of ECRIN. And ECRIN federates and coordinates the activity of clinical trial units. For the time being, there are 130 clinical trial units in our federation, and by coordinating the activity of individual clinical trial unit, we are able to provide operational services to the management of the clinical trial, which is services to the sponsor more than to the investigator. And for this reason, because the sponsor are disease agnostic, usually they are university, hospital, or SME pharma companies and so on. But most of them are non-commercial sponsor for us. We are disease agnostic, and we are able to provide these services whatever the disease area. And in addition, to be able to provide efficient services, we have and we keep developing a series of tools. We got recently 2 EU-funded projects as coordinator to upgrade our toolbox, I would say. What is the organization of ECRIN? So we provide services in 2 steps: collaboration and then services. Collaboration means that when the investigator and the sponsor come to ECRIN, usually they don't have money, so we don't charge anything. We decide or not to collaborate with them, but as soon as we have decided to collaborate with them, we keep collaborating until the funding application. And what we are doing is mostly to support the investigator and the sponsor in the planning and the design of the trial. And then once the project is funded, and not all of them are funded, unfortunately, meaning the success rate in clinical trials funded by the European Commission or the partnership is rather low. But once the project is funded, then we provide operational services as one of the beneficiary in the consortium. And what we provide is mostly the ethical and regulatory approval, the monitoring, the vigilance, data protection, data management, and data sharing. These are the key services provided by ECRIN. We have an access procedure, and I will speak a bit about this access procedure. Now it is in two steps with a first collaboration committee deciding on the collaboration phase, and then we have a scientific committee in charge of the peer review of the full protocol. And then we provide services to clinical trials in any medical field for any sponsor, any investigator, any intervention, any age group, and so on. And this is done because we have this distributed organization. ECRIN for the time being is in the range of 50 staff. Half of them are based in Paris and half of them are based in the national node. And this is very important because these people are ECRIN staff, meaning they are employed by ECRIN, but they are located in the national node of each of the individual countries. So there is 1, 2, or 3 European correspondents, depending on the level of activity of each country, but these people are in charge of coordinating the trials that are initiated by investigators and sponsors in the same countries. So, and with regard to the clinical operation services, we provide first general information through our website or through direct contact with investigators and the sponsor. Then we have a second activity, which is the planning, which corresponds to what we call the collaboration, during which we provide a lot of support to the investigator and the sponsor in the planning step before the full protocol is designed and the funding application sent to the funding bodies. And then we provide all these services during the study execution as a member of the successful consortium. So FAIRPAC now. FAIRPAC is a good example of our activity in the field of neuroscience. Neuroscience is an important activity for us. I think it is the number one before cardiovascular, infectious disease, or even cancer. Meaning that we have a lot of activities, not only in neurology, but also a lot of in psychiatry. For instance, we are starting a new project in psychiatry consisting of establishing a platform trial for major depressive disorder funded by the Wellcome Trust and coordinated by Charité in Berlin. But here it is about neurology, and the question is whether the iron chelation can improve the symptoms in Parkinson's disease, because you know that there is a iron deposit in the dopaminergic neuron in the substantia nigra in Parkinson's disease, and there is a huge literature about the description of this iron deposition and animal models of iron deposition, and is the iron something that worsens the natural history of the disease or not, and so on. And so this trial was designed to explore whether iron chelator that decrease the level of iron in the blood, but also in the brain, in the substantia nigra and the striatum, would have a positive impact on the symptom in Parkinson's disease. So the project was funded by the Horizon 2020. In 2015, it was a 6 million project involving 24 participating sites in 8 different countries. So I will go through the study design very shortly, but it was a multi-center parallel group randomized placebo-controlled trial of deferipron, which is this iron chelator, to assess the disease-modifying effect in the absence of symptomatic effect. And so the statistician calculated that the statistical power would be reached with 372 patients, and the target was met. The indication was, and it is the reason why there was a need to have this as a multinational study, it was de novo Parkinson's disease with drug-naive, dopaminergic drug-naive patient, which is not so easy to find. The primary outcome is a rating scale for movement disorder, and the secondary outcome including the measurement of the iron in the brain through MRI, also a volume analysis in the striatum, measurement of the dopamine transporter, ferritin, and prolactin. So this is the listing of sites. You can see that there are more sites in France for a good reason, because the French partner FGreen has developed a disease-specific network, including one for Parkinson's disease called NSPARC, and so all these investigation sites are the NSPARC network in France, which doesn't exist in the same way in the other countries. So it is the reason why we didn't have to contribute to the site selection in France, because they were already self-identified, I would say. And so how did we work with consortium during this project? So the sponsor of this study is Hospital University Center in Lille, in the north of France, and the PI is from Lille. The sponsor was the hospital in Lille, and the lead CTU, the clinical trial unit leading the project, was also the one in Lille. So everything was in Lille. So for this reason, we asked the French European correspondent to take the lead, and the French European correspondent is not based in Lille, not based in Paris. She's based in Toulouse, but she took over the establishment of the support structure for the trial. Then there was a collaboration step with the support of ECRIN during the planning and the design. So it means many things, the site selection, the cost evaluation, the understanding what will be the regulatory framework, because at that time we were still under the 2001-20 directive and so on. Then after that, there was a funding application to Horizon 2020. This was a successful application, and then the access to ECRIN services was decided after a full peer review of the full protocol. And so the principal investigator was not so happy to spend one month in having the protocol again reviewed by the ECRIN scientific board. But at the end of the day, this came with some interesting suggestion, recommendation to simplify a little bit the protocol. And I think this is important in particular, and also in terms of publication, having a very simple and robust protocol makes the level of publication sometimes higher. And then we started providing operational services during the trial execution. And as I said, it's mostly trial management services. So we have here the list of the services: regulatory and ethical submission, sending the user, meaning the vigilance, local project management, monitoring, and so on. What is a bit of a pity that they didn't decide to use one of the ECRIN certified data centers, because we have a policy of certifying data center, and we recommend the sponsor to use the certified data center. The one in Lille is not certified, but Lille preferred to have this performed in-house, and we didn't go to a conflict on this point. But this is a bit of a pity, because now we have a well-developed network of certified data center, and we have also data sharing services, which will become more and more important with the EHDS regulation. So here, the coordinating European correspondent, so based in Toulouse, was in contact with the PI, the sponsor, and the lead CTU in Lille, and she was in charge of coordinating the activity run by the CTUs activated for the purpose of this trial in the different countries, meaning in Austria, in Germany, in Spain, and so on. So this is the arrangement and the way we work to provide support to the trial. And this resulted, so the trial went to an end without major problem. Of course, the recruitment was a bit slowed down during the COVID, but it was really at the end of the project. And so the the trial was able to come to an end. And very surprisingly, the result was not only negative, but very surprising, because at the end of the day, it was demonstrated that the iron chelator had a negative effect on the symptom of Parkinson's disease. So this is interesting because there were two different explanations for the possible impact of the iron chelator. Either the iron is considered as, for instance, promoting oxidative stress and destroying the dopaminergic neuron, or it could be also seen as a cofactor of the tyrosine hydroxylase, for instance. But I think it's rather the second hypothesis, which is a good one, because it turned out that in spite of the fact that the MRI demonstrated that the level of iron in the striatum and the substantia nigra went down, the impact on the symptom was a negative impact. So, and I think I'm done with that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jacques, for this very compelling example. So we are a bit over time. I'm sorry for those of you, but there are still many here. So I think we should, in maybe no more than 5 minutes, try to wrap up what has been discussed and ask a question. Many. So first, thanks very much to all of you, the presenters, for your effort, and I think it was extremely useful and clear what you presented. So Jacques, there is one of our colleagues in the chat saying that in fact clinical studies are eligible in this call, at least up to the point of the proof of concept, which is indeed the case. But again, so it means that even if your screen would be directly targeted yet, there is some room for further interaction with you as soon as the real clinical trial is set up. Then I think that there are also many questions about how to include research infrastructure into the project. I have seen this, and I think that most of the presenters have indicated to you how to do it. So it can be as partners from time to time, but probably not the organization itself, but one of the nodes can become a partner in that case. They can be, of course, included in any case as mentioned into the project itself, because as I said, the fact that you use services, tools, all the means provided by the infrastructures is anyway an asset for your project, a strength of your project. It gives it credibility, feasibility aspect very clearly, and this needs to be included into the project. It's not mandatory, so it's not really an obligation, but it's strongly advised because again, I think it increases the feasibility and the strength of your project. I don't know if there is any major aspect. I was not able to summarize everything. But do you see, Alexandros, Dominique, or Evan, something we need to address urgently?
Yeah, I think the questions that have received the largest engagement, let's say, they have been already answered. So I think
So
we are
yes,
covered.
so and also I don't know if one of my colleague would like to emphasize one point for in the purpose of this webinar on call. I think as it has been said several times, I think the best way of answering directly the question you have is to target the infrastructure which has been presented today, and then we will be able to deal with the questions directly. There is also something which has been said in the chat several times. It's also the overall complexity or the the flourishing possibilities of being using the infrastructures in Europe, which is true. So the way of directly interacting with the infrastructures may seem still a bit, I would say, unclear to some of you. And I would like to emphasize something which is just started, and I see Linda here. In fact, Eurobioimaging has taken the lead for a project called Access to Access, which the goal of which is precisely to develop AI tools which will allow then investigators to directly, ask questions to the overall community to be able to more easily use the different tools in your project. So it's not there yet, Linda. It will take still maybe a couple of years before it becomes really a reality. But it's the way to go. And yes, basically the take-home message is that you have seen infrastructures have many things to offer. It may be a bit complex from time to time, but we are here to answer your question. You are here to work with you. And even if for this project, it was probably a bit too late, we have been very constrained by the time being. It's, as Dominique said at the beginning, it's the first year, so we were obliged to do everything in a quite tight schedule. But I think it opens possibilities for you. For example, what Linda has shown you on the imaging facilities, what I don't know, Jacques has shown for the future clinical studies, what Andrew has showed you for the databases, and all of you have shown very compelling examples of what can be done with infrastructure. So I think it's a good appeal for the next calls next year, in which you are strongly encouraged to use these infrastructures in the framework of the partnership. Linda, you would like to say something?
Yes, actually, thank you, Philippe, for this presentation and also introduction on the future plans. Indeed, we recognize the difficulties to understand what type of services you can use and how you can interact with all those research infrastructures. Just to let you know, we interact across the research infrastructure. We helping each other. So if you reach one, you can also have more information for connecting with others. Secondly, what is important is to ask your question and have an exchange with experts. So you can see also across the different services presented here today, there are some services that are also helpful to not redevelop something that is already in place, like all the fair data management process and how to use the existing tools already available. So you do not redevelop something that is already there. This is the aim of the research infrastructure, is to make anything ready to use for all your research purpose.
Thank you, Linda. What you said is very important, very convincing also, I think. So with this, I think since we have a bit over time, I would like to again thanks all the presenters, the speakers for the very, very excellent presentation we have heard today. Then I would like also to thank the the audience, which was quite large. We have lost a little bit of them in the meantime, but yes, we were over 120, so it's I think a very good success, and I hope that this webinar was very useful for all the future laureates of these calls, and we will continue doing this in the future. And as you said, we are at your service. It's the mission of all the infrastructures. So thank you very much. Have a good day, good weekend, and hopefully see you soon in our infrastructures soon also.